Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Once Upon a Time in PatORG, the podcast where we will be speaking with the All Stars voted out of this season. I'm your host today, Nico, all by myself. Besides, obviously, our guest of the hour, it's Justin B. How's it going, Justin?
Hey, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. Happy to be here. I played on season 21 social media, and I only said I'd ever play again if it was a Pat All-Star season. So here I am.
And here you are, yeah. It's great to have you. And how did it feel just like off the bat knowing that? So, at what point do you find out that you've got to go like by having an extra letter in your name? Like, was that like a sort of like a, oh, okay, so did that get your head kind of swirling of who else might be on the cast?
Yeah, because I knew that a couple of seasons after me that there were some other Justins in
Mm-hmm.
them. So you can see my confession. I was like, I really hope there's not another Justin. And then boom, he hits me with the initial. So I just went with B. Guess it worked out.
Right, yeah. Yeah, as you mentioned, that was probably pre-season. You were thinking that. So, what other things did you have like going in your head before the game started up? Were there particular people you were interested in seeing back, or other people you're interested in not seeing back? What was that like?
Yeah, so that was one of the kind of pre-game questions. But honestly, I thought anyone that made the merge on my season was fair game. But I would say I was probably most certain about Shay. I know
Yeah.
she was a fan favorite. So after I got voted out, I kind of like control F my name like most people do.
Hmm.
And I saw that Shay did a cast reveal video. And when she finds out I'm on it, she flips me off like 20 times saying I'm the one she wants gone most. Yeah, I expected to see her, but if there's ever a rival season, I want to go up against her. But in terms of me, I think a lot of people from my season probably didn't expect me to be here. You can even see one of the specs. He said like I didn't know season 21 Justin still did orgs, so it's cool to see him back, which is true. But you can see obviously Shay and EJ, they're both surprised when they saw my name. But also, I knew I was kind of at a slight disadvantage because after my season, I kind of went inactive. I was busy with school. I didn't really keep track, so a lot of these names I didn't really know, or I didn't know their backstory or how they played. And it's a lot to keep track of because obviously you know how time consuming this is, and so you don't know who's like close on their original season or if they bonded with some other tribe mate. So it was a lot to manage, but I did go back and look at some of my tribe mates' confessionals, kind of like stalked them, just to see like their thought process and if anything stuck out to me.
Yeah, that's so true. Like this, almost like the game that carries on with like what goes on beyond the org and the relationships that get maintained in like stuff like Spec Lounge. And I did notice, yeah, you weren't as active since your season, but we did see a couple times that you'd like designed the logos and stuff. So that's what when I was doing my sort of imagined cast list, I was like, I can see Justin coming on, and
Yeah,
yeah, here you are.
I
Um,
was glad to stay involved with the logo design, so happy to do that.
Yeah, so earned your place, if not just for that, but obviously you did manage a very respectable second place. And honestly, going into that final tribal, I thought it was going to go your way. I mean, obviously, loved Rory to death, but
Yeah,
was just one of those final tribals where really didn't know how things were going to end up. So,
yeah, we
yes,
can talk more about that later, but I think I did great, and yeah, like you said, it could have gone either way.
sure, absolutely. Um, so, how did you feel about this season, like as a like comparison to your original season? Was there any things that you kind of thought were particularly similar, or just completely different? What was that like for you?
Yeah, so I could give you a quick recap of of my original game and then get into that.
Yes, let's go with it.
But so Will, I think, did a great recap at when the season started. He kind of went through player by player, gave a little spiel on it. But so for my first season, Pat DM'd me on Reddit, and like I barely used Discord. But he asked me to play the Survivor game, and I'm like, what the heck, might as well. I was on winter break from college, so I had a lot of time on my hands. But then it started, and like I had no idea how organized it was, and like it's the real deal. But I was all about it. Like I was super into it. Just some backstory. So my pre-merge tribe was like a complete disaster. We had a stupid amount of drama. Then we swapped, won a couple of challenges. Then I basically lost one of my closest allies. We merged, and then my main ally, Anissa, was voted out. So there I was down 8-3 from the original tribes, and I didn't even talk much with the two other people. But after she got voted out, she basically dragged like the entire cast,
Mm-hmm.
um, besides me. So I felt like I kind of had to stick up for her. Kind of got into an argument mostly with Christina, but it kind of added fuel to the fire. And that night, I kind of assumed I just tanked my game. But after that, I kind of found like a crack. Jake and Will, they were trying to work with me, but then they told me straight up, like, it's probably going to be me tonight. So I was like, all right, I'm not going to just turn over and get voted out. So I kind of apologized to Christina, and luckily EJ wanted to make a move with me. So that kind of begun my reign at the merge there. I voted correctly 8 times in a row. I managed to win a couple individual immunities. And I remember season 41 was on at the time, and some of the specs were like comparing me to Xander, which I don't know, I thought was fair. I think my biggest downfall was just my social game and not getting to know my castmates enough. So, yeah, ended up losing in a 4-2-2 vote to Rory. I thought he played a great game, but overall, I think I was super happy with how I played. And then, like I said I would come back for a returning season, and here we are.
Yes, and well deserved. Yours definitely was an interesting path, as you mentioned. It's funny that, as you say, you were 8-3 down come the merge, and then somehow two of those three end up in the final tribal. So
Yeah,
uh,
correct.
we love the turnaround. I think you were someone that was identified as a threat for a long time, and just other people kept doing some other stuff that kind of got them targeted first. So you managed to, yeah. I thought, unfortunately, you were in trouble come that sort of point, but
Mhm.
yeah, that's your story coming into this. So what were the sort of things that obviously you had all that happen, and obviously this
Yeah.
season happens. What are your like? Are you starting to feel similar vibes at all? Like, is it completely different? What are you feeling like?
So I'd say the biggest difference, obviously, I know everyone's going to be a threat coming into an all-star season. Like everyone knows how the game works, but the biggest thing I would say is we were actually winning challenges this season.
Mm-hmm.
I would say mostly I want to thank Chris for that, but we are all doing decent as a tribe, and we managed to avoid tribal 8 times in a row, which is pretty crazy. And then, yeah, that second swap happened, and I kind of knew that we didn't really stack up too well in challenges. They had Chris and Nelson, so I figured tribal was on the menu, and here we are.
Yeah, unfortunately, that was I think the one tribal that the X guys had to go to, if I'm right. So unfortunate that it
Yep.
ended up going that way.
Yep.
Um, just to recap, all the way back to I believe episode one, we have the unveiling of the Hollywood sign twist.
Mhm.
And you are one of the first people to go with your fellow Justin and winner Royals. What was talk to me about like sort of finding out about that twist? Obviously, you had no intel about what it might be. What were your thoughts on the whole thing?
Yeah, so obviously I didn't really expect to be the first one going, but I was like the game player in me was excited because I was just curious to see what would go down here. And I think at first I thought it might hurt my game because obviously you miss out on 24 hours of bonding with tribe mates, especially this early in the game, and it might paint a target on my back. But at the sign, we chose Brain, which was a logic puzzle. I was kind of thinking back to Real Survivor, like they can do the triangle thing, or they can like do the water buckets. So I just figured Brain's the way to go here. So we did kind of talk about an alliance, like Royals would be like an honorary Justin. But overall, I would say the experience was kind of tough because Royals was MIA like as soon as the challenge started. And so it was a logic puzzle. Eventually, I was able to figure it out. And Pat gave us a choice of horror or superhero. And we went with horror, although I was kind of annoyed because Royals never responded. So the choice actually got randomized.
Yeah,
But horror did ended up getting chosen, which was fine. I thought it was a cool experience, but honestly, like I didn't feel too strongly about working with either one of them. So afterwards, I just kind of gave my tribe the truth. I didn't want to lie to people that early. I just said like straight up, Royals was inactive. I was able to do the puzzle, and the choice got randomized. So I think it went well.
Yeah, I mean, as you said, you ended up being on a very strong tribe, very different from your original season where there was a lot more messiness. You guys do end up staying safe whilst you guys before you get swapped. What
Mm.
were your like inner ideas or understanding of what was going on within the tribe? Because obviously you guys didn't have to ever put it to a vote to see what was going on. So who did you think was where?
Oh, that was weird because honestly, I thought I was in like a good spot. I was trying to work more on my social game this time around, so I was DMing people. But I was surprised to see that I was pretty much the target if we were to end up going to tribal. But I guess that was because I kind of threw out some names early, which I guess was viewed as kind of being aggressive in terms of gameplay. And there was a story going around that I was kind of leading an anti-winner agenda, which is partially true, but like I was kind of just using that as like a talking point with people. So I think that was blown out of proportion. I don't know if you saw this, but I made a stupid comment about how I was getting Chick-fil-A for lunch,
Right,
which like
yeah.
I didn't I didn't think much about it. Um, like I don't know, it wasn't on my mind. I just wanted a chicken sandwich, and then I immediately regretted it. And turns out I think Clara wanted to use that as a reason to vote me out.
It
So
really just is any old thing. Like, obviously, not to, get into that too much, I suppose, the stuff surrounding that. But it literally is, like you mentioned, you can throw out simple things like an anti-winner thing. And I think in a season like this, definitely conservative gameplay, I think, is where a lot of people are at as far as not wanting to, like, rear their heads with people
yeah,
already having
exactly.
built-in targets in a sense. So any old little thing, unfortunately, can be used and will be used against you.
Yeah,
Um,
no, I learned my lesson, but that is true. Like in some of the seasons early on, it's kind of easy to find to I don't know drama as a reason to vote someone out. But in an all-star season, everyone's a bit more, like you said, conservative. So they're looking for any reason to vote someone out, especially pre-merge. So maybe I should have focused more on just casually talking with people and not talking strategy that early. But whatever, you live and you learn.
right, and I think your tribe was actually uh, didn't really make many alliances from what I remember. I think the other tribes
Mm,
were quite quick on the trigger. So as you say, it's so hard to know which way to go with these things. I mean, some people might be looking for like early sort of ins to be like, yeah, let's lock this in. I feel secure with you. Let's just ride this the whole way.
mm.
And other people are like, whoa, this person's being a bit much. I think we need to, do something about that. So it's really tricky. You don't obviously know where everyone's really lies, which is, I guess, part of the beauty of this game and what makes it like so complex.
Yeah, obviously because we were winning those challenges, you I don't think anyone really wanted to jump the gun on an alliance chat. And tribal is obviously like the biggest thing in Survivor. That's how you know like who's aligned with who. Um, that's kind of how you figure it out. So I think honestly, not going to tribal for so long kind of hurt me because I didn't really know who I could trust, and like there were no lines drawn in the sand. So yeah.
That's very understandable. So you guys do obviously eventually swap to, I think it's New Universal you were on. Um,
Hmm.
and this is where we talk about potentially having someone like that's maybe more inactive or more messy is an easy vote. And
Hmm.
you guys do end up having royals on your tribe. So he doesn't obviously get voted out traditionally
Hmm.
because you guys do end up managing to keep winning. But he does end up leaving the game, which was the only time you guys end up losing a member again. Um,
Yeah.
if you guys ended up going to tribal in that spot, what do you think ends up happening whilst you're on that tribe? Also, remind me who
I
was
would
there
say,
at the time. So obviously we had Royals going, we had you.
yeah.
Who else was with
I would
you?
say this was probably the best position I was in all game, just because I felt like myself, Chris, and B, we were kind of in the middle here, and we had the Paramount trio of Henry, Lily, and Shay. I would say I probably clicked with Henry the most there, but obviously, like I said earlier, I didn't really have any interest working with Shay. I knew our relationship was, I don't know, not really repairable. Although we did voice chat in one of the challenges with the plays and the lyrics, and I thought that went well, but we didn't really talk much after that. And then in terms of Lily, she was cool, but I never really connected strategically with her. And then on the other hand, we had the two MGM people, DeLuca and Peter. I probably bonded with Peter the most here. I think he's a really cool guy. And I probably, if we did go to tribal, I probably would have preferred to vote with this duo. Um, Probably the best thing for our game would be to vote Steven and not really blow our cover of how we're playing both sides. But I would say, considering his relationship with Shay, that probably wouldn't have happened. So honestly, I'm not sure how that would have played out.
Yeah, we did see that Stephen was a name that got thrown out. That was potentially, if you guys had to go from the
Hmm.
spectator's point of view, it seemed like it was at least going that way. Uh, like you mentioned, you had these two majority alliances which could have gone either way, and Stephen's the only one that's actually not in either of them, and yet, funnily enough, is the one that you kind of get stayed on the same tribe with throughout, and also one of your season 21 alum. So interesting how like things can change, differ season to season in that sense. Um,
Yeah, I would say with Steven, my biggest regret was obviously we were together in the entire game on all three tribes. I should have connected with him earlier and just, I don't know, actually tried and gotten to know him more. Because we didn't really connect on my original season, but ended up voting him out. But I think it would have helped if I connected with him early on and we built some trust.
yeah, that's fair enough. So eventually you do swap yet again into Universal. So this is your third time on Universal. Universal strong for you. And you do lose those two core alliance members in B and Chris,
Mhm.
which was probably a huge blow. And then again, sticking with Stephen as the only person I think that, again, you're not in alliance with, so go figure how these things work. Um,
Yeah.
how did you feel like once you saw the tribe split and the who was where? What like yeah? What are your first thoughts and just throughout? What did you feel about the whole thing?
Yeah, it's funny. You can look back on my confessional, but I knew right after this swap I was in a pretty bad situation. So obviously, yeah, like you said, I lost Chris, B, Henry, and DeLuca, which I all felt good about. All I had was Peter basically, but obviously we lost the challenge. He got sent to the sign, and I did kind of figure that the other tribe was stronger in challenges by having Chris and Nelson. They're both very good at that. So yeah, we ended up losing the challenge. It was kind of frustrating because when we were doing it, I was telling my tribe it's not about how long the word is; it's just about the number of the words that we get.
Mm,
And we ended up doing sauteed backwards for some reason. No one caught that, and we ended up scoring 1 point. So that was pretty annoying.
yeah,
But yeah, we lost the challenge, and Peter sent to the sign. I'm like, geez, of course. So here I am. I'm left with Shay, Steven, and EJ, all of whom I voted out on my season. So I kind of figured everything was just lining up here. Like I knew that they were gonna try and get revenge on me. So it comes time to strategize and whatnot. And Stanley at least told me that he heard my name. So I'm like, yeah, it figures. So I tried working on Andrew. I thought he was my biggest hope. I was just telling him like Shane, Steven are a really dangerous connected duo, which is true. And I think it would be beneficial to kind of split them up. And another thing is, I was trying to tell Andrew I could be a valuable number to him because, like I said, never been a tribal, so I never really shown my loyalty to anyone.
mm,
And then in terms of Talia, I just assumed she would follow Andrew. Um, but yeah, ended up getting voted out 7-1. There was an extra vote played. So I saw their reasoning. I kind of knew it was the end of the line for me. Like I said earlier, I probably should have gotten closer with Steven earlier. Um, but yeah, I just figured I'd try and target him or Shay here. And another thing is, I guess people were afraid of a season 21 alliance with me, EJ, Shay, and Steven, which on paper I guess makes sense. But I don't think I would ever see myself working with Shay, and she wouldn't see herself working with me. So that's just how that played out.
yeah. So like you mentioned, I think you guys were the only season that actually managed to all get assembled out of the original
Hmm.
cast members this season. And like you said, as much as you want to say you wish you linked more with Steven, in this spot, obviously, who knows how that works out if you do end up with Shay as well, because I know they're quite close. There was a bit of talk about how they were openly posting like Snapchat pictures that they were having with each other. So
Yeah.
not doing the best job of concealing that, even though I'm not sure that they necessarily, you know, clocked that themselves, that that was how it was being perceived. So again, yeah, just tricky knowing how to do things. And as you say, sometimes you see a group of people from the same season and you think, well, yeah, they're going to link up. But when the past relationships just aren't always that squeaky clean, it can go the completely other way. So as you mentioned, you do end up getting voted out. Um, Aside from the Steven thing, is there anything else you feel like just throughout your game? There's anything you wish did differently? Things you were proud of? Yeah, how are you feeling about the whole thing?
Um, yeah, I'd say overall, uh, yeah. I mean, I was happy with the way I played. I think I could have worked on just building those relationships earlier. I mean, maybe I would try and repair it with Shay, but I think she was pretty set on voting me. The only glimmer of hope I saw was after that second swap was the fact that I was with EJ, and we kind of ran stuff on my season. So I was hoping that he'd at least try and, bring me in as a number, try and work something out. And I think he did trust me, but I think everyone just thought it was the right move to stay unanimous and vote me out there.
Right. Well, as I say, like I think you losing Chris and B was really unfortunate at that point.
Hmm.
We do
Yeah.
see Chris kind of like saying, "Ah, damn, this is really bad for him" when he sees that you've left. So
Hmm.
that is something that obviously I think had potential to go a bit further, though. Chris does have a lot of alliances, like in his finger in many pies, so to speak. So who
Yeah.
knows to what extent that would have materialized? But yeah, it does end up being unfortunately that you get voted out. After saying voted out, you talk about rooting for pretty much the people in the Purple Rain Alliance. So that was B, DeLuca, Chris, and Peter. Is that what it
Yeah.
was? Was it that sort of alliance that you're favourable with that made you pick those people, or was it anything else beyond that?
Yeah, honestly, at that point, I think I sent that message before I, control F my name and
Right.
saw everyone's thoughts on me. But I was shocked to see like how big of a player B is and like her reputation within orgs. I guess she like pioneered the whole voice call strategy, and obviously she has a very tight out of the game friendship with Nelson. It seems like, but yeah, it was kind of a dark day today. She unfortunately quit. At this point, if I had to choose someone, I want to see, I want to see Stanley go deep. He's a pretty entertaining character. Um, some other things I want to see someone go home with an idol in their pocket,
Okay. Well,
or they'll
we've got three
blindside
of
you.
them all together, so
Yeah.
who knows how that's going to end up? I mean, there was that sort of foursome that's now become the threesome with the idols. As who knows what that's going to impact with. I'm a bit behind, so I got some catching up to do to figure out what's going to happen there.
Yeah.
But yeah, that it's wild seeing. I mean, that's such a scary force having that many people with idols together. It is hard to
I
kind of
know.
try and vote against that with someone having an idol in their pocket. But yeah, we're gonna have
And I,
to watch this space.
yeah, and I think in my situation, obviously after the second swap there, I think everyone kind of knew that all three idols were on the other tribe, so tribal wasn't really complicated in my vote off.
Right.
I'm trying to think some other things I want to see. Just in terms of being petty, I want to see Shay and Steven get split up.
Okay.
And then besides Stanley, I would say I'm rooting for Peter. He's just a nice dude. I had some good conversations with him. In terms of what I'm probably going to see or who has a good shot here, I think Andrew is in a great spot. He's kind of staying under the radar, but also controlling the votes. So we'll see what happens with him. Chris, I mean, Chris kind of blew up his game. We'll see. We'll see how that goes. I wonder if Nelson is going to try and get some revenge, and then DeLuca seems like to be in a good spot with her idol. So we'll see how things played out. I'm excited.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of game left to be played. So much has happened. I guess that's what happens
Yeah.
when you have this many big characters in a cast this big. It feels like we've literally had like half a season already. But we're what, like, I think it's pretty much like a third of the way through or something like that.
Yeah.
I'm not mathing right now, so apologies for people out there screaming, being like, wow. But yeah, that's pretty much where we're at. So I do love the Stanley pick as someone you want to see fire. I'm someone I'm enjoying as well, especially from the older seasons before I started spectating. It's nice to see some of these players before my time as if they're super old. um,
It's
and
funny.
yeah, and I think the Andrew pick is really nice as well. Like I do think he's kind of in a nice spot. I would love to watch how he goes on with things, and even the Peter pick as well. Yeah,
Yeah,
just everyone. Honestly, there's so many ways this can go at this point,
yeah.
and really interested how it is going to shake out. Any final thoughts, Justin? It's been such a pleasure speaking with you.
Just to touch on the last thing, if I kind of learned anything from my game. So this time around, I'd say it's just way more drama free, and which was a good thing, and I feel like I connected to people better. Currently, I kind of have like that itch to play another org, so I might try and find another one to play. I'll let you guys know. So another thing, on my first season, I never really like revealed my identity until I posted a picture of me on my speech wearing a survivor buff. But then you do really realize that when you're playing these, like I mean, it's cliche to say, but it really is more than a game, and you are making real connections with these people and learning about their lives. So I think next time I'm gonna use like an actual picture of me for my profile picture and try and voice call people more early on. And like as a huge Survivor fan and myself, and even having applied to the show, I mostly just play these orgs for the strategy and gameplay. But I think kind of now that I'm out of college, I think it's a great way to like make new friendships and meet people. So overall, I'm just going to try my best to stay involved within the PatORG community, stay in touch with my tribe mates, the people I played with, and yeah, I'll let you guys know if I end up playing another season. So excited for that.
Yeah, we'll love to see that. And obviously, still rooting for you to get onto the real show itself if that's something you're still interested in.
Oh
Um,
yeah,
so yeah, it's fun to see as you talk about like yeah the arc of like obviously at the beginning you didn't have your picture up until the end of your season, and then now you're like talking about sharing Instagrams and stuff. So it's funny how
exactly.
far we
Yeah,
can come. Cool. So yeah, Justin, it has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for giving me your time today and running through your game. It was really fun.
yeah. Of course, I was happy to talk. Thanks for having me. I think this was a good way to kind of wrap things up and look back on my game and talk about it. So thank you.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that. That's always nice. Sometimes, yeah, it can just be a cathartic experience. Other times, it can be like poking at wounds. But it's good to hear that you're still got a bit of like the org itch and you'd like to jump back in. So I feel that's a good place to be at.
Yeah.
So yeah, thanks again. All right, everyone. So this has been Once Upon a Time in PatOrg. Thanks again for joining us, and we will catch you for the next one. Bye
Peace
bye.
out, guys.